So I'm going to show you a video in a second where I'm coaching my client Richy through a single leg hip thrust exercise. Very simple exercise, common, popular exercise, important exercise, and for a good reason, because it gets the glutes to do a good job, or helps them do a good job if you do the exercise well. Most people butcher it, unfortunately, in many different ways, and I'm just going to offer you one little tweak today to maybe get a little bit more out of it for some people, for this client in particular. Okay, so the glute max is a really important muscle to get working very, very well. It helps to protect their lower back, helps to protect their hips. When it's not working very well, we'll get a lot of tight lower backs, a lot of tight hip flexors. We might start to overload the front of the pelvis, and several other things. And then as well as that, the thing that everyone loves is a big juicy glute, because one, it obviously looks good, and two, it helps with powerful, efficient movement. So the best sprinters in the world, when you see them in full flight, their glute max is doing such a good job for them, and it's a really cool thing to see. And most people that are saying, I don't run very well, it's for two reasons. Number one, the foot isn't doing a good job, and number two, the hip isn't doing a good job, meaning the glute max usually. So even those two things work together, to be honest, because if the foot doesn't do a good job, the glute has no chance. If the glute doesn't do a good job, the foot has no chance. So we need to get them working together, and that's what we're doing in this video. So that glute max, not the glute med or the glute main in the side, but that will be a different thing. But in this video, you'll see that I coach him to use the inside of his foot a little bit more rather than the outside of his foot. Most people will coach you to use the outside of your foot, screw everything out, because that's one of the functions of the glute max. It kind of makes sense if you're on two legs, but not really if you're on one leg. So we'll have a look at it here, and then I'll explain a little bit more afterwards.
You're pushing your right knee out towards me, but you're also trying to keep the inside of the right foot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that get the right glute to kick in?
Yeah.
Then you're going to drive through that arch and push up and squeeze as hard as you can at the top. So inside of the arch, heel, big toe. Good. How's that?
It's burning like fuck.
Yeah.
So you see there, Richy said that it's firing pretty hard, it's working pretty hard, that glute max, and that's just a body weight exercise for him, and he is a strong guy, obviously. So that we're going to load the crap out of that. We're going to put a lot of load through that, either with a dumbbell or a landmine attachment on a barbell, and load the crap out of it. Okay, and that will burn the shit out of it and get that thing to work really, really well, which is going to be really important to help him stay injury free, solve a couple of little niggles, and perform better, in my opinion. So one of the reasons I was telling him to use the inside of his foot one of the reasons why people tell you to use the outside of your foot is kind of the glute max does that kind of, it'll twist everything out like this. That makes sense if you're on two legs, because maybe makes sense, probably not actually really if you break it down, but if you're doing a double leg hip thrust, then you probably want both glute maxes to push, and the whole pelvis will open like this, and the whole back will kind of close, and we're going to get that push in both ways. That's fine for a powerlifter or someone. That might be fine for an athlete or something as well. But when we go on to a single leg, we don't really want that, because if we're missing that push, we're not just missing push in a forward direction, it's kind of this rotation direction. So when we get a glute max to push us, it's not necessarily just pushing us forward, it's kind of pushing us towards the other leg. So it's going to contract hard, push, and rotate me to the other side. And to do that well, that means if we just take the left side, because I actually have a left foot here, if I get the left glute max to push, it's going to go that way, but also rotate me to the right side. What will also happen when that happens, or what should happen, is that the foot, if I'm rotating to the right or pushing off to the right side, that left foot should be able to pronate and flatten down. Okay, so this should happen. So the pelvis and the foot do the same thing at the same time. So if you're trying to get your glute max to kick in on a single leg exercise, and you're trying to get that kind of small push to happen, but you're staying on the outside of the foot, then that doesn't really work. And you're not going to feel your glute max very much if you do that, okay? So it's a small little tweak that we can make, but people talk about connecting the foot with the glute, or the foot and glute connection all of the time. They don't really know what that means. They just think stay on the outside of your foot and grip your toes into the floor. No, if you let your arch, if you push through your arch, drive through your arch, That doesn't mean necessarily that the whole foot is going to roll off the floor, but just drive back up from those positions with the arch, then that glute max is going to have to start to work very, very hard. And when you walk, you'll start to feel, I feel my arch in my foot more. I feel this springiness starting to come in, okay? So it is important to understand anatomy and biomechanics and how we compare these things to make very small tweaks. After he did 10 reps, he doesn't need any more cues. He's just going to be able to push through that arch all of the time when he does that exercise now. And it's a small tweak to an exercise we might be doing anyway, and we're going to get way more gains. So I don't see the negatives to it. So I will give it a try. Let me know in the comments how you get on, and click subscribe if you haven't already.